Hi ladies, Dionysia here. I wanted to take some time out with you today to speak with you about entering the year of the snake. You may know that I'm referring to Chinese astrology and the beginning of the Chinese New Year coming up on January 29th, so next week. And I wanted to talk to you about that today, not because I'm super well versed in Chinese astrology, I'm not, but I am super well versed in what the medicine and the magic of snake is. And the crossover that I do know about between Chinese astrology and what I know about snake medicine is that it has to do with transformation and renewal and intuition and spiritual growth. So some of you already know that I had an era of my life as a teacher and a dancer in which I was dancing with live snakes, boa constrictors and pythons, and leading ceremonies for other women to dance with them as well. And I learned a lot about serpent energy through that era of time. And interestingly enough, my journey with snakes far predates the time period that I was performing with them and teaching with them. I actually grew up in a very small town in southern Alabama called Opp, in which the major event every year was the rattlesnake rodeo. And all of the men in our town, and nowadays women too, but at the time mostly men, would go out into the forest and gather rattlesnakes and put them in cages in the football stadium of our small town and make a weekend celebration out of games and all kinds of things with the snakes. So my journey with my relationship with snakes began early in this lifetime, and I for sure have other lifetime associations with them. But fast forward quite a bit in my life to being an adult, and I was at the Glastonbury Goddess Conference, actually my second year there, I think, second or third year there, and which would have been 16, 17, 15 years ago, something like that. And during the opening ceremony, a group of women came out holding boa constrictors in their hands that they were dancing with. Now, they did this beautiful thing where they had them coiled in their hands and danced with them in this kind of way. I actually, when I started dancing with them, much later with another priestess in Oregon who had taken this on, as I started learning to dance with them through her, we were dancing with them around our bodies, and that's how I performed with them and taught with them for the years that I was doing that and leading ceremonies with them. The woman that I originally started dancing in that genre with, she, at one point when it was like her time with that came to an end, she passed those serpents on to me, and that's how I sort of took it on. So it was a little bit of a lineage thing that was happening in our priestess circle at the time. And I'll post a little video clip at the end of today's video for you, or maybe in the email underneath the video for you to get to check out what I'm talking about. But what does that have to do with you? Well, let me tell you. I learned several things in that era of time of being with those snakes in that way, and my journey from first seeing it and feeling like I have to learn how to do that, and then having it show up in my life in a very organic, easy way, and all of the depth of meaning that came to unfurl through that. And in working with a lot of women, actually, there were a lot of women who came to those snake dancing ceremonies. I learned a lot about what snake represents in psyche, as a symbol in psyche, and what it means for us as women. And one of the major things that I saw happen for women in those circles was overcoming fear of our own power. So there's a lot I have to say about this that I'm going to get to later in an offering that I have for you. But for now, what I want to say is that snake, as many of you know, is Kundalini. It's our life force energy. And in the year ahead, we're going to have a lot of opportunities just looking at the world stage and the astrology of the year ahead. We can see it as patterns that lay out, but also where we are collectively as humanity right now. We have a lot of opportunity right now to really hone, gather, come to understand, more deeply know, and more powerfully express our power. And from deep feminine wisdom perspective, we're talking about Kundalini, Shakti, our sexual power, but not only sexual, but our life force. You know, in many of my classes that I teach, I talk a lot about how sexual energy is the same as life force energy. It's the same as creative energy. It's what we all come from. It's what we're all made up of. And yes, we run that when we're sexual with another person. And a lot of, feminine wisdom teachings are about learning to run that in ourselves, regardless of whether we're sharing it with another person. So in those snake dancing circles, a lot of what I saw was fear, women being afraid of the snake for a lot of reasons. For one thing, Western civilization is set up on the creation story of Adam and Eve. And the snake is the villain in that story, right? It's the evil one. But that's just a story. And if you dig deeper into that story, we find that whole configuration of beings, woman and man at a tree with a snake, is actually based on the goddess culture of that land, where they would have been worshiping Ashera, who was represented by a snake. And the way that they worshipped was that they would go up on top of mounds in the land or hills in the land, and they would take a tree trunk and carve it with serpents circling around the tree trunk. And so they would gather there and worship the goddess and her consort Baal in that way. So that whole story is actually drawn from the pagan peoples of that land, as are so many of the stories of Western civilization and religion. And there's a lot to be said about Eve and her power and Lilith before her. And how those women got woven into those stories with the snake, with the knowledge, with the power that man should be afraid of. And everybody gets punished for having that kind of power, right? And then we see that happen for women through the ages. But my point in sharing all of that is that we have good reason to be afraid of our power. We've lived through a lot as women. And in those snake dancing ceremonies, in those circles, the biggest thing that women would bring would be fear, but the fear translates from fear of serpent to fear of power, fear of myself, fear of how powerful I could be. And then what would I be? And how would I express that in this world? And in these dramatically changing times, as you've heard me say, and will continue to hear me say again and again, we as women are the vessels of tremendous power, and the world is calling us to bring it. Now, how you're going to bring it is going to be individual to each one of you, and how you are in the world and what you're devoted to. But all of us can really learn from the more broad spectrum teachings from, again, the deep feminine wisdom traditions about serpent, about snake, and what that energy means for us. How do we tap it? How do we use it? How do we feel it? How do we express it? So again, I have had such a deep exploration of this and have seen women transform literally in front of my eyes in dancing with the snakes. And I want to distill what I know from that, what I learned from that, and what I've taught in that, what I came to know intuitively and from an embodied perspective about who we are with that snaky energy and what it means to shed, to transform, to move into a new expression, a new skin, to live with our belly on the earth. What does that mean? How do we translate that into how we do life, how we navigate life, and especially how we navigate these times we're in and what's about to come? So to that end, I'm offering a 1-hour class coming up in the first week of February. I'm calling this class Passion, because passion in its many forms is one of the many things that we can attune to and grow in ourselves and feel more in ourselves when we tune into the medicine of the snake. It's a 1-hour class. I've priced it at a very inexpensive price. It's actually the first in a series of things that I'm going to be doing in February, which I'm now calling an affair to remember. And I'll tell you more about that next week, but you can go ahead and see it on the page. I really want to offer a lot to you in this season of love about, woman's power through her sexuality, through her love, through her heart, through her womb, through her yoni. So the first in that class series is going to be about snake medicine, about what those energies are, what we can do with them. And you don't have to have a snake, an actual being, to be able to do it, because the energies are available to us. They're natural to us as women. And when we turn towards them and we learn what they mean and how to work with them, then we get to really sort of own that as part of our movement, as part of how we go forward, as part of how we shed, release the old, embrace the new, shed, release the old, embrace the new. And this year, astrologically, that's what this year is all about. It's about endings and beginnings, endings and beginnings, endings and beginnings, endings and beginnings. So when we have a tool, a practice, if you will, about how to do that fluidly, how to do it naturally, then we actually make the whole process easier for ourselves. It's far more difficult to try to be navigating those things without contextualizing it in a way that's natural to the female being. So I hope you'll join me and come tune into passion and get with me in my passion about serpent, about snake medicine. There is a reason that we see snake all throughout the ancient world. I'm going to be talking about that in this class, along with the meanings of snake and how you can be incorporating more of that energy in your life, how you can be working with Kundalini. We're going to be doing some simple things around that, or talking about some simple things around that, to support you in the times ahead. And how about it? How about we ring in the year of the snake together, and we decide that we're going to make February an affair to remember, and kick it off with passion. I hope to see you there. And as always, if you enjoyed this content, please do go click that subscribe button. It helps me get the word out to other women. It helps me be able to keep bringing you free content. It helps YouTube spread the word. And it helps all of us to be continuously supporting the journey of other women as we grow and as we become more and as we take on this world that we live in right now. So yes, please click that subscribe button, and I'll hope to see you for passion. All the details are below.